Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, April 3rd. We're into April. Hopefully, we get April showers, bring May flowers. So, we've been talking about money, money, ho! And it's time to talk about systems. Saturday, we talked about the psychology of money. And so now we're talking about systems. So, people that obtain financial independence, first of all, did you go and find your number in order to achieve financial independence? Did you go back and actually look? If not, please do that. Please go back and take a look at what's the number that you would need to have in order to have financial independence. And so, what that is your basics: housing, including insurance and taxes, food, vehicle or transportation, whatever that is. If you're in a city, that could just be a Metro card. Cell phone, we're going to include that. Utilities and insurance, like health insurance and those types of things. Just the basics in order to get by, in order to just, not be homeless, be able to have insurance, be able to function, be able to eat. What's that minimal number? Because typically you find out it is not that much money. It can be as low as 2,500 a month. Some people might be 5,000, might be 6,000, even if it's 8,000. Figure out what that number is in order to get to financial independence. Okay? That's not absolute financial freedom, but that's financial independence. What is your number? Now, vehicles. How do we get there? Well, it's not very complicated. People that obtain financial independence and absolute financial freedom, they do a couple of things. Number one, they spend less than they make. I know, it's super exciting. And they take the difference and they invest it into a vehicle that we call a money machine, meaning it makes money while you sleep. If you're trading your time for money, it's almost impossible to get to financial independence unless you're the best, absolute best at what you do. Obviously, if you're Aaron Judge, he's got absolute financial freedom. However, even if you make a huge amount of money, we can talk about story after story after story of people who have made ridiculous sums of money and made it all go away. Nicolas Cage, Johnny Depp. I mean, the celebrity list goes on and on and on. Most everybody who's won the lottery. Why is it that they don't hang on to the money? Because they haven't dealt with their psychology. So in order to hang on to the money, number one, you've got to save a certain percentage. You've got to do what we call pay yourself first. Now, here's what most people do. And I did this too for a period of my life. Most people say, well, when I make X dollars, then I'll save. When I pay off my debts, then I'll save. No, you won't. No, you won't. Because spending always increases to meet income, always. And Johnny Depp and Nicolas Cage are great examples of that. These guys made hundreds of millions of dollars in a single year and still made it all go away. Well, I wouldn't be that stupid. Oh, okay. Are you sure? Because let me tell you, all of a sudden it's like, hey, we can go do this, we can go, and it's fun. Spending money is fun. You know, sitting up front at basketball games and at concerts is fun. Donating enough money so you can go backstage and meet the celebrities is fun. Riding on a private jet is freaking fun. So guess what? When you got a big pile of money sitting there, you're going, well, let's go do this shit. Well, then the next thing you know, the big pile of money is gone. So the people that figure it out, they take a percentage and they put it in an investment vehicle. And tomorrow I'll go through a series of different investment vehicles. And in fact, we could have a whole weekend session where we do an hour or so where we cover the different ones that are out there, because it's a great opportunity right now to take hold of certain ideas. If you guys want to do that, drop that in the chat and we'll set up a time and we'll do that. It's Easter weekend. Good time to figure that out. But you got to pay yourself first. You pick a percentage that you pay off the top of your gross no matter what. No matter what. No matter if you lose your job, no matter what, that you pay yourself. And think about it this way. If all of a sudden the federal government, if you were to ask yourself, what's the best period of time in this country in the last 100 years? We're in the 2020s. So let's go back to the 1920s, the roaring 1920s. What decade was the country in the best shape? Okay? Most people would pick the 1950s. We had tremendous growth. Everybody was employed. People were building houses. We had this boom when we came back from World War II. Well, the thing about the 1950s that everybody forgets, Eisenhower was president. What was the number one employer in the United States was Ford Motor Company. Who was number two? It was the United States government. They were the number two highest employer. Why? Because we were building the interstate highway system. Eisenhower took over that whole thing and built the interstate highway system so we could travel back and forth. What was the highest tax bracket in the 1950s? 70%. If you were in the top 10% of earners in the United States in the 1950s with a Republican president, 70% was your highest taxes. And they used that tax money to hire people and build the interstate highway system. Okay, so let's imagine that the federal government came to you, and by the way, could this happen with the deficits that have been run up by both parties over the last 30 years? Hell yeah, this could happen. It probably will happen. It probably needs to happen. Let's say the federal government came to you and said, you need to pay 10% more in. Okay? Would you figure out how to do it? Of course you would. You'd figure out how to adjust. You'd have to. So you would still figure out how to pay your rent, your mortgage, your food, your basics. You would figure out how to adapt. Tax yourself. Take the 10% off the top, put it into an investment vehicle, and you commit that you're never going to touch the principal of that investment vehicle. You're only going to touch the interest. And the people that hit financial independence, that investment vehicle starts to make money and starts to pay them money and eventually makes more money than they do doing their job. And when that happens, now you've hit financial freedom. And the investment vehicles do not need to be complicated. In fact, the less complicated they are, the better they are. They also don't need to take a ton of your time. Once you get a money machine going, quite frankly, it ought to be something that you can spend an hour or two a week at most. Many times you can spend a lot less than that and still have it grow and become something that pays you. Well, that sounds too easy. Well, it isn't all that complicated, but people don't have the discipline. Remember, there's two types of pains, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons. And what happens is people don't discipline themselves. I mean, think about this. Let's say I have a friend who's 80 years old, worked his entire life, worked very hard, made good money, and now at 80 doesn't have a nest egg. Has a house that's paid, has Social Security, that's it. Well, imagine that person when they first started working, which means they started working during World War II. Let's say since 1945. All they did was put $10 a week into an S&P 500 index fund. That's it. How much would they have? I don't know the answer to that question because I don't do the math, but I can tell you right now, by 75 years old, it would be millions. Because that's the miracle of compounding interest. The younger you are, the better off you are with regards to this because of compounding interest. When Warren Buffett blew out the candles on his 50th birthday cake, he was not worth 1% of what he's worth today. It took him that long to get to a point of critical mass where all of a sudden the compounding interest shoots you straight up. If you want to see something, Google compounding interest. I'll put a link up here with regards to compounding interest as to the impact of that. You go at a very steady pace, and then all of a sudden it just skyrockets. And for most people, that is how their net worth goes. That it's somewhere in their 50s or 60s or maybe even 70s that it skyrockets. If you are younger, you have the greatest commodity that's out there. It's called time. The problem that people have is they don't start early, and then they do start, and then they stop, and they change their approach, and they go after the shiny new thing. Well, I'm going to go buy Bitcoin. I'm going to go buy an NFT. I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to go buy that. They don't do a steady plan towards achieving the outcome, which quite frankly, the best plans are boring. And I've done all this. I've done all the investments where I invested in all the exciting stuff, and I even hit stuff. I had one stock, when I was in my 20s, I bought one stock that went up 2,600% in a year. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me because then I thought I could do that again. I bought Qualcomm in 1996, $5,000 worth in 1996, because a local investment guy told me, he said, hey, I think this stock's going to be good, and I took the bet. In 1 year, that $5,000 investment went up to $360,000. I was 28 years old, and I thought I was the king of the universe. But guess what? I didn't sell it, and I didn't know the value of a stop order. And what happened? It went up in 1997, 1998. What happened in 1999, 2000? The tech bubble burst. And what happened to my massive gain? It evaporated. Did I still make money in Qualcomm? Yeah, I did. I hung on to the stock for another 10, 15 years, and I made money. But did I make what I could have made? No. Why? Because it's gambling. You don't want to gamble. You want to bet on sure things. Sure things are consistently investing in a way that makes sense. And it doesn't have to be in the stock market, by the way. I don't invest in the stock market now. My wife does, but I do not. I do not have money in the stock market. My money is elsewhere. I've made a decision to move away from that. And for those of you that aren't in your 20s and your 30s and you're looking at this and saying, I'm getting too late to start, well, I had to start over at 45 and do this all over again. And as a result, my percentage isn't 10%, it's 40%. 40% of gross goes into investment vehicles. That's a high percentage, but that's what needs to happen in order for me to get to where I want to be in terms of creating my outcomes. So spend less than you make, pay yourself first, invest the difference in a way that creates a money machine, which there's several different ways to do that. There's many different ways to do that. Never touch the principle of that money machine. Never, ever, 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 because then you're starting over. And continue to do that until the money machine pays you more than your regular job. And then you have financial independence. Everybody can do this. Everybody can do this. It doesn't matter what you make. It matters how disciplined you are to continue to be on that path. Don't get off the path. Once you get off and start over, then you've reset yourself. And remember, you've lost that opportunity for the compounding interest, which is what you want to get. You want to get to that critical mass where all of a sudden the interest on top of the interest just goes bananas and skyrockets. It happens to everybody. Happened to Warren Buffett in his 60s after he'd been investing and since he was 21 years old. Now he's in his 90s, of course. So when asked, how'd you get so rich? He says, good genes and compounding interest. Because he lived so long and compounding interest launched him into the stratosphere. So figure out what that vehicle is. But the rule number one that you got to do is you got to pay yourself first. You got to have the discipline to pay yourself first and put that money into an investment vehicle. Drop in the chat what your number was or just that you did it. Please say that you did it and you saw what you need, because we can start talking about vehicles. And if you guys want to do something this weekend where we talk for like an hour and we go through a series of different vehicles, I'm happy to do that because I love this stuff. It took me forever to figure this out. I wish I would have figured it out earlier in my life. I did discipline myself and invest the 10% from $1. I did everything I was supposed to do there, but I diversified and I did all of those things, but I still took risks that I shouldn't have taken. And then I had a personal crisis unrelated to anything that I did, which made it that I had to redo everything, which was a bummer, but did teach me lessons on how, when I did redo everything, how to build it back in a way that it was that much stronger and that much more durable and that much more reliable. All right. Hope to see you guys have information in the chat. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, I got to say hi to everybody. Mr. Dakin, good morning. Mr. Drehobel, hello down in Florida. Ms. Kabatsky, great to see you this morning. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you. And I see Mr. Dakin put something in. I will respond to all of that later on today. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other. Hi, Dawn. Thanks for hopping on.